So what do we have in store for today's coaching conversation? Well, again, coaching conversation continues to capture your attention. I was just saying to our guest today that we've had over 338 people register to attend this particular session. And I know many more are going to watch it on our live Facebook stream, and many more will watch the recording on the YouTube channel as well. Such is our curiosity in this topic. And today's guest is Mike Garde. Now, Mike is a graduate of the Coaching Academy, and when AI first burst onto the horizon, his background in tech enabled him to really see the potential of tools like ChatGPT straight away. Now, since then, Mike has used his coaching experience to play around with how AI can be used in a coaching context. So we're going to be talking about that and all things AI today as we dive into our session. So let's dive in straight away and welcome Mike. Thank you for joining me today and giving up your precious time to talk about AI in the use of coaching.
No, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sharon.
Brilliant. Mike, somebody said in the chat they loved your background. It does look like that you're sitting in a
It's
well.
not actually it's a real thing. It's not a background.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's meant to be a soundproof kind of wall, but it doesn't work very well.
Right, okay. I don't want to be sitting in a soundproof wall. They might think they've put me in a padded cell. Mike, brilliant. Well, warm welcome to you. Can I ask you, as I do with all of my guests, just telling us here today a little bit about you, a little bit about your journey, what encouraged you to start looking at training to become a coach, and who and what you coach on today?
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I've always been interested since being a teenager in personal development. I started off my career as a psychiatric nurse a long time ago. But I was in that for about 4 or 5 years, and due to young family expenses and things, I ended up going into IT. And I always felt like a little bit of a square peg in a round hole with IT, but I kind of I've been doing it for like 30 odd years. But then I think it is in I kept up with personal development, things like Tony Robbins, personal development books, etc. So I kept my hand in. I was always interested in developing myself. And then I think it was about 2009 I came to the Coaching Academy. Originally, I can't remember exactly if you had the 1 or 2 day courses, was it, that were free back then? That I went on. I was blown away by that. Really loved it, and all the practical experience you got from that. So I enrolled, and then I got all the materials, dead excited, and it sat on my shelf for 10 years. So I just want to say to anyone who's worried about, oh, it's taken me a bit too long and everything. I read loads of these comments in the Facebook group. Oh, it's taken me longer than I wanted. I've had a break for a year or so. 10 years it took me. Kind of life got in the way. It sat on the shelf. I think about 5 years later, I looked at it and thought, no, it's too late now. It's, that ship has sailed. And again, 2019, by then, I don't know, something got me going on it, and contacted Coaching Academy. They were very good and still honored everything. And yeah, I absolutely loved the course, and especially the in-person events were amazing. And I qualified late 2020. So yeah, that was a big part of my journey. These days, I've kind of gone with I've looked in something called the 3 principles, which are what I coach around now. It's a little bit more spiritual feel to it. But it's such a great grounding, learning the Grow model and the Coaching Academy. It really got me going, everything put in place and launched me really to get in the coaching mindset. So
I
yeah,
love that, Mike.
it's a brilliant journey.
I love your transparency and honesty around that, because it would have been very easy for you just to skip that part. But I think that's a real important comment and a real testimony to how important it is for us to, sort of not worry about how long the journey takes us. And it's not it's not a sort of like a sprint to get there, is it? It's not even a marathon. The destination needs to be at our pace and our speed at the time that's right as well. So thank you for sharing that. So wonderful. Great stories. The stories that really bring it alive, isn't it?
Yeah, if I could just add quickly that I just went to one of the live events, and it was Chris that was taking the enrollment at the time. I know he's passed since, but yeah, he says, "Oh my God, I think that's the longest anyone's gone from enrolling to actually start taking the course." So yeah, I'd just say don't worry about it at all if you're worrying it's taking too long.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine Chris saying that. And he would have remembered you by that as well. Oh, thanks, Mike. So, AI, a fascinating topic. And I'm not going to make any assumptions on how old you are, Mike, but if you're as old as me, then, I was reflecting today on how incredible it is to think how technology has changed our lives in so many ways. And when I first started work, I was using a typewriter with Tipex and carbon paper and all of those things. And then I remember on my work experience when I was at secondary school, we were using telex machines, and we were still using telex machines. There are probably people here today that doesn't even know what I'm talking about. I know my kids don't know what I'm talking about. So it's incredible to see how quickly we've embedded AI into our, technology into our lives. And then, I was reflecting this morning when I was walking, how fast, how quickly AI has burst into the world, and it's everywhere. So I wondered whether perhaps you could start just by covering for everyone listening today, just the main different AI offerings, sort of high level, what is AI, and what are the main ones out there?
Sure. I mean, AI has been around for quite a while, really. I mean, if you think about, I don't know, your phone assistants like Siri and things like that, and Alexa. I mean, that's a form of AI, but it's a very structured kind of form of AI. It's dependent on one thing, and also things like I know in like the medical field where they're analyzing like X-rays and scans, and again, it's very dedicated to that one thing. Uh, what's burst onto the scene more recently in the last year or so is what they call large language models, LLMs, you might hear them referred to. And that's things like ChatGPT. But there's not just ChatGPT out there. There's also Google's version. They've all got a free version, by the way, so which is great. So they've got Google's. I think they've renamed it from Bard to Gemini very recently, last day or two. And then there's Microsoft's Copilot, but that is based on ChatGPT. There's also one other which is a little bit more less used, should I say, is Anthropic's one called Claude as well. But again, they all have free versions, so they're great to try. I think they probably all have their own different strengths. So I'd say Anthropic's Claude, ChatGPT, and Google's Gemini, they're all kind of distinct in their own ways. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. And the Microsoft one, like I say, is kind of built on ChatGPT anyway, but it still does behave differently. They've probably got some settings in it that have refined it to work in a certain way, I think, for Microsoft.
Mm. It's interesting, isn't it? Because when I sort of think about sort of all those that are available, if we sort of go back to the search engines and things, I mean, there are and it still is loads out there. There tends to be then sort of the main the main sort of dominant ones that sort of are here to stay, and the ones that people sort of gravitate to. And I guess the one that we hear the most and people talk about the most is Chat GPT. Yeah. So I think we can probably all agree then that AI is here to stay, right? It's sort of embedded into our lives. You know, I have Alexa who supports me in the morning with my routine around. You know, she does a nice sort of background relaxation meditation while I do my little yoga stretch in the morning, and then I go into a box breathing, and then she gives me you know, sort of a meditation quote and things. You know, and it's funny again. You know, I was reflecting this morning. You know, we watch movies like, I know, AI robot and all of that type of thing. So there's been a lot of scaremongering, isn't it? Like we're all going to lose our jobs and, you know, that type of thing. So I guess, you know, as you say, there are pros and cons, and we have to take the use of AI with a little bit of, I would say, maybe encouraging caution. AI is great, it's not a person. We even know with Google searches, things that come up for us aren't always accurate. That's going to be the same with ChatGPT or any sort of those type of thing. And I'd love your sort of thoughts on this, really, because I was looking at I was reading a post actually, and it was only last week, and it was one of those AI generated posts where you're invited as an expert to comment, give your comments. You know, it says, "Oh, you've been selected as an
Mm.
expert to comment," and it was really interesting. It was a post about comparing the Grow model with the Stoker's model. And what I found really interesting as I was reading sort of through it, it was a number of different questions, and then you were asked to comment on there. What was interesting is that it cited the Stoker model as being created by Jonathan Passmore. But as we know, it's actually created by Claire Pedrick, who incidentally is joining us on a future coaching conversations. So that for me is sort of like, oh, but if people didn't know that, they would
Mm.
assume that it was by Jonathan Passmore. So what are your thoughts on sort of things like that? What's the caveat, would you say, about, you know, all things AI? Because I don't want to come across as a dinosaur, but we do need to be, you know, sort of careful about using them.
No, absolutely. They're called hallucinations. And yeah, it's a known thing with these large language models. And I think if you're doing it for anything creative, it's usually absolutely fine because you're not quoting. It's usually if you like, say, you're quoting someone or it's about a specific person, then it could well come back, and probably 90% of the time it will come back with the right information. But it's always just best to check your sources. Now on the Microsoft version, and I think also on the ChatGPT paid version, and probably on the Google one, you can ask it for references to reference sources, and it'll give you links so you can double check the sources are real. So that's available, I think, on the Microsoft free version. Pretty sure on the Google version, ChatGPT on the paid version, because that has access to the internet and everything. Then the hallucinations often come because the ones that aren't connected to the internet, like the free ChatGPT version, where it can't literally go out and check that source. So if it doesn't know, they say it's kind of almost trying to please you, so it'll give you an answer, you know, even though it might be the wrong answer. So yeah, it's good to look out for those things. So anything that's statistical, facts or figures, it's always best to double check.
Mm.
But it will save you a ton of time as long as you can check the sources and things.
Yeah.
But there
I think
was
that's
there was a case. Sorry, Sharon.
no, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Like I said, there was a case late last year, as some lawyers in America who'd been lazy and they used ChatGPT to prepare all their casework, and it cited a load of other cases, you know, as they do in when they go into court, and the judge read through them, and none of them existed. They'd all been made up by like ChatGPT, and they hadn't checked the sources. The lawyers, they'd been very lazy and just, you know, I'll do this and probably have a long lunch or something like this rather than have to do the grunt work. So yeah, so that's important. Anything that's factual, always double check with the relevant sources.
Such good advice, such good advice. And you mentioned there about the paid versions versus the free versions. Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of the difference between the two? Because, you know, obviously the paid version is there, lots of people use it. Why would somebody need to maybe use the paid version?
Okay, I think Google's only just bringing out their paid version, so I'm not even sure what that encompasses yet. Microsoft's free version pretty much gives you everything, but in a cut down style, as in you can't do too much, you can't enter too much text in it, etc. ChatGPT paid for version, it means you get the access to their latest model, the one that will give you more creative answers. Also means it's got internet access where it can go off on the internet and search for things to back up sites. It can also do data analysis, so you could upload I don't know, an Excel spreadsheet, ask it questions about the data in that, and it can do all sorts of clever things with that. It can create images, manipulate those for you. So yeah, there's a ton of other things it can do essentially
Amazing.
for the paid version. Yeah, and the
Amazing.
nice thing about that is you're not tied into a subscription. So if it's about works out around about £20 a month, so you could just pay £20, do a load of stuff in a month, that you need to do for the year ahead, and then just cancel your subscription. So you're not tied in.
That's really great to know, isn't it? Because I know one of the things you're going to share with us is actually how we can use it for different sort of image generation, inspiration for social media, etc., and stuff. So knowing that actually we don't have to be tied in for a whole year is really useful to know, Mike. Thank you. So let's talk chat. Can't even say it. Chat GPT. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
I've had that problem so many times, Sharon, believe me. Yeah.
Maybe it was AI generated, and that's the reason why for us humans it doesn't sit right. I don't know. Anyway, it does seem to be the go-to model that everyone's talking about. So I'd love it if you don't mind just to expand a little bit, maybe on how we can use it, the different things that it can be used for. Because I know you've got some great tips on different ways that we can use it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'll do some demos in a minute, but I mean, I think it's good for research. Again, if you use the paid for versions, you can do research that I think where the references are reliable. So research is a good thing for both personal or professional. Social media, I think for social media, it's a brilliant thing to use. But the caveat there is it's to use it as like I'd say a creative assistant rather than if you literally just take exactly what it said and paste it in a post, it's probably going to be quite impersonal. You've got to put your own spin on it and make it personal. Your humanness and your uniqueness. But yeah, it's very good for that. Image generation, it's potential to generate logos. Again, in the paid version of ChatGPT, like any images you generate are yours to use as you want, commercially or anything. Same as any generated text or any content you get back. So you don't have copyright because there's a lot of confusion about that at the moment, as in case laws and things that they're working out. But you do have a free right to use it as you like. The other thing is you can ask ChatGPT to act as a person, and that's really interesting. That's really a really powerful thing that I use it for. But beyond that, for also in the coaching context, if you want to go more advanced, you could use it for like creating courses, creating market those courses, to create like client avatars. So that's something I always struggled with, and I find ChatGPT is really good at doing that if you ask it the right questions. So some things. I don't know if you want me to dive into any demos or.
Yeah, that would be really good because I think I think this great. It's great to talk about it, but I think sometimes the power is in being able to see it, and certainly, what you were saying around, don't just ask it a question and cut and paste it, and use it verbatim. Check your links, check your sources. Rubbish in, rubbish out. So the more specific we can be, the better. And also, we all have our own unique sort of tone of voice. So Tell me a little bit more, maybe, about using maybe AI on taking on a persona, sort of maybe as a mentor, and then we can sort of move on to some other things.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll just share my screen for this. So I'm going to be using, for most of the demos, I'll be using the free version of ChatGPT. So this is something that you can use. And just as an aside as well, you can download the ChatGPT app on your phone, and Bing Copilot as well. Again, they're free to use, very powerful just to have with you when you're on the go. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to be or act as the persona of John Whitmore, the author and the guy who created the Grow model in the first place, and the author of Coaching for Performance. There we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm asking ChatGPT to act as a persona. So this, I'm saying John Whitmore here. It could be, I don't know, whoever you want. It could be a historical figure if you like. So it will take on that persona if you ask it in a certain way. So I've just, for clarity, I've said who wrote Coaching for Performance. So I'm just making sure it knows who I'm talking about, what John Whitmore. So I'm saying I'm a coach and I'd like you to be my mentor and help me refine my coaching regarding using the Grow model. I've also said do not break character here. And that bit is because I want it to. Now I've tried this with John Whitmore. Is probably not the best persona to use on this, but if you try it on like Tony Robbins, someone like that, you feel like Tony Robbins is speaking to you. It's really quite uncanny. But you have to put this do not break character at any time, otherwise it will just go back to being an AI, if you like.
Yeah.
One good thing to ask on any prompt you do is ask any questions that will help you, as in the AI, to help me. So basically where it can refine the answers. So let's send that into ChatGPT. So like I say, I'm using the free version. So this is what everyone has access to. So again, we see the answers, they come up really quick, especially in this free version. So absolutely, I'd be delighted to assist you in refining your coaching skills, particularly in utilizing the Grow model. Could you share some details about how you typically use the Grow model in your coaching sessions? What challenges or areas do you feel you could improve upon? So I've got a few pre-prepared prompts here. Save us time. It's not fun watching me type these out. So I've just said I have a reasonable grasp of the Grow model. I have one client who I find it difficult to pin them down to a goal. Instead, the conversation rambles on and we don't make a lot of progress because of this. What's my best course of action? So again, bang, it's very quick with the answers. And I think if you've not got anyone to refer to that you can ask in person at the time, it's just something good that'll give you a good steer of where to go. So in this situation, it's important to recognize that sometimes clients may struggle to articulate clear goals for various reasons. And as a coach, it's your role to guide them through this process and help them uncover their objectives. Here are some steps you can take. So it's listed out. I think these are all pretty good steps from what I can see. Breaking down goals, reflective summaries, goal setting exercises, etc. And by incorporating these strategies into your coaching sessions, you can help your client overcome obstacles and establish clear, meaningful goals aligned with the Grow model. So, and again, it's nice, puts these nice little touches on. I think remember, patience, empathy, and a willingness to explore deeper issues are key components of effective coaching. But this is, like I say, acting as John Whitmore right now.
Mm.
So I
That's
just
really powerful, Mike.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So one thing I could do then is I could say, can you suggest an exercise I can do with my client to help them formulate a clear goal? And so then again, I'll get an answer, but not only will I get an answer, I'll get it broken down step by step. So I can literally think, oh yeah, okay, I know how to do this now. I can take my client through this one step at a time. And I don't know if we mentioned, I think there'll be a handout you can download with all these prompts in, so you don't have to write those down. So don't worry about writing the prompts down.
Yeah, we'll share that in the chat towards the end of the session, and you'll all be able to download it. I won't share it now because otherwise you'll all be looking at the handout and not listening to Mike.
And then finally in this exercise, and we could go on, it's literally a chat. So it's like, having a chat with John Whitmore. So show me a really good exercise to do with a new client other than the Wheel of Life. So in this case, it's doing ideal day visualization. And it will tend to be Americanized, the text. You can change that, but I'll just as an aside. So again, it will take you through the visualization, how to do that, take your client through that. And again, I just think these are really useful. And I found things by doing this, come across things that I've not even heard of before, as in exercises and ways to do things. So that's what I mean, as in it can also be a good research tool in that way as well, to aid your own personal development in finding out new things. So I'd say from acting as a persona, that's probably pretty much covered in this, I think. And the persona could be anyone.
Really, really helpful. And obviously, what sort of jumps out to me is, it's a bit like I was saying before, rubbish in, rubbish out. The more specific that we can be, the more likely we are to get a sensible answer from the AI tool. And I think it is a tool, and so the way that we use it is important, isn't it? The other thing I just wanted to sort of ask is, how do you find maybe using it potentially as a client avatar? How have you used it on that?
Okay, for that's a little bit more involved. So I've actually created, getting a little bit more complicated now. I've created something called called a GPT, which are like little programs you can create yourself, and you can share those with other people. So this is the one I've created, Ideal Client Avatar Generator, which anyone is welcome to use because they are free to use if you're on the paid version. So basically, it gives you 4 options here to start with, but I'll just say, generate me my client avatar. Oops. So ask me some questions now. So name my business. In fact, I'll keep this really simple, so we'll be quick. Products or service. I'll say life coaching skills. I'll say, so the target market I'll say is HR professionals moving to work for themselves. Oops. And typos don't usually matter. ChatGPT is pretty forgiving of those type of things. So it's starting to create a persona for me here. You can see, as an HR professional transitioning to working independently, I spent years in the corporate world. So again, it's taking on that persona, honing my skills in managing people, understanding organizational behavior. And it will usually talk about, so the idea of stepping out my own is exhilarating but daunting. So it's nice because it's almost taking on that persona of a HR person thinking of making that move. So to me as a coach now, that's really powerful. I think, oh yeah, I can see what are your challenges. So I think it's very powerful in that kind of way. Because I always kind of struggled with avatars, to be honest. That's why I created this.
Yeah, and again, it's just sort of, it's asking us to be thinking a little bit more, honing our skills in, and supporting us in developing how we might target a particular client niche. So yeah. I think the other thing, there's a couple of things that have just popped into the chat box around, using, do we think that AI will replace coaches eventually. In my opinion, I would say no, because I don't believe that a robot or some sort of artificial intelligence can truly have empathy, reading body language, that type of thing. And also, we've got to remember ethics and the way that we work as human beings. Well, there is no substitute for a real person, I don't think, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Mike.
Yeah, bring on the robots. No, I'm just joking. I think, yeah, I think in reality, what you said absolutely makes loads of sense. I think from what I've seen that there are even apps you can get now that are kind of like AI type of coaching that are specific to that. But I think all that does is open the market up to something that's a little bit, it's probably a lot cheaper, for people maybe to access the coaching market, and then that'll probably bring them on to wanting to have personal coaches in the future. I think it'll give them a taste of coaching. It'll maybe make it more accessible initially, and then when they've understood what coaching is, because I think a lot of people need educating on that the general public, then maybe it'll open a bigger market, I think. And I think this is why it's important to also is to be yourself, be authentic, be unique, because those are all your superpowers.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. No substitute for that as an AI tool. Wonderful. How else might we use AI then? What other sort of tips have you got on how we might be able to use tools like ChatGPT as a coach?
Okay, I'd say, as I specified earlier, about a research tool. So if I'm talking about your own research now for your own personal development,
Yeah.
some real quick wins we could do is, it just could be like about books, coaching books. Could you create a list of 10 powerful books to read as a life coach, for instance? And again, it's just amazing the speed this thing churns churns information out. So straight away, I've got a list of 10 books. Obviously, even if you're asking a person, this is all subjective of what are the 10 best books, but you could ask it variations on that question. So it gives you the title, it gives you the author, so you can look this person up a bit more, and then gives you a little summary. So what you could do, the thing is with ChatGPT or any AIs, you never know what they're going to come up with, because it can change even with the same prompt, because it's generating as it goes. It's not. So what I'll do is I'll take the coaching habit book, the first one on the list. I'm just going to put this in here. So I'm just saying, can you summarize the book for me? To give me a bit more information about it. I'm a little bit interested about that one. That sounded, piqued my interest. So again, it'll give me a little bit more guidance on what that is. And then from there, I could think, oh yeah, that sounds really good. So I wonder what's an example of an exercise from this book, and is this the type of thing I'd like to delve into a bit more? So again, it says here, one powerful exercise is the coaching habit involves the use of or question framework. And again, it's totally new to me. So, and it goes step by step in breaking that all down and how we could explore that. So again, I think that's really good for your own personal development and research, where you can look into that.
Yeah.
Again, this is all on the free version. I think another way is social media. I think that's very powerful. Again, always put your own spin on it, but it's great as always look as AI. I think it's been said as almost like you've got an intern with you who's not very experienced, so you've got to really spell things out to them what you want them to do. And as an intern, you'd always probably check their work as well, just to make sure it's done right. So kind of use it as an assistant. It's almost giving you a lot more hour power. I've just made that up now, but gives you I don't know, it reduces the hours you have to work on some things by quickly generating things, and then you tend to refine them after that, as a person.
I think that's such an important point because, when I think back, the hours that I've spent in the past, sort of researching something on Google, and then I've been
Mm.
given all of these different links, and then I've clicked on the link and it's taken me here, it's taken me there. If I ask the same sort of research question in chat, which I have done in the past, actually it's much more succinct and I've got it all in one place. And then I can check the references, I can check the citing, I can have a look at what it's referred me to and think, right, is that a reliable source, etc. So it has absolutely cut down the amount of hours that I've spent in research. But yeah, sorry, Mike, you were going to sort of share how it's used for social media purposes.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point you just made, Sharon. I really do, and I think that's one to definitely take away. So in this case, this is for like social media. So I'm saying I'm a mindset coach. Again, that could be any type of coach you can put in there. I want to talk about limiting beliefs, create a social media calendar for the next 10 days in a tabular format, include columns for the day number 1 to 10, the social post idea, and a summary of the idea. So again, so if you're thinking, oh, I don't know what to post, but you are a mindset coach and you want to talk about limiting beliefs, you literally just have to put something like this in, and within seconds you've got 10 potential ideas. Now you may not like some of these ideas and you don't have to use them. It's just pick and choose what you want. But believe you can, you're halfway there is the quote. That's the social post idea by Theodore Roosevelt. And the summary of the idea is encourage followers to reflect on the power of belief in achieving their goals. And then it just goes into a little bit more detail here for each one. So like I say, not everything might work for you, but it's a good thing to do. I'm doing a little campaign at the moment of my own, which is I've created a social media kind of calendar for you. Won't be able to see it, but I'm just saying it's very useful. And a lot of those things I'm thinking, yeah, no, not that one for me, but it gives me something to fall back on. If there's nothing up here for that particular day, it's something I can refer to.
Mm. I think, Mike, for me, what that does, and I might just be talking from my own perspective, well, I am only talking from my own perspective, it takes away that, what I call blank page syndrome, where you're
Absolutely.
sitting staring at a blank page thinking, I have not got the foggiest where to start.
Hmm.
And so, I love how specific that instruction is. I am a mindset coach. I want to talk about limiting beliefs, and then asking it to do what you just asked no offense to any interns out there or people that have got interns as children, but it's almost like giving it the intern instruction. Now, okay, go away and do X. What I didn't know, which has revolutionized just me looking at this today, is that it can create a table. I thought it would just give you a whole list of stuff. So
Yeah,
giving
yeah.
that instruction about, in a tabular format, that's really interesting because, that's quite sort of, a much more helpful way of looking at that, the result, than perhaps it would be giving you a whole
Mm,
range of stuff.
absolutely. And the good thing is you could think, okay, oh yeah, that's great, but I actually wanted a new column added to the table. So this time I want some emojis and hashtags for my social media posts. So again, ChatGPT will take your instructions, and for some reason it's the hashtag blank blank column there, but it's got the hashtags in the actual emoji column. But as you can see, it's done exactly what I've said. So you can manipulate tables. You don't have to have just what you got initially. You can actually then manipulate what you've got by adding a new column or taking something where you could say take every odd day out. I just want even days, things like that. So you can
Mm.
manipulate the data that you've got as well.
And what you're doing there is almost like building on the discussion, the chat, if you like.
Yeah,
You've given it
absolutely.
an
Yeah.
instruction, you've got an answer, and you thought, right, okay, it is like working alongside somebody, isn't it? Sort of, okay, so we've got that right. Actually, let's build on it. So then, rather than starting straight from scratch again, you're saying, okay, let's take what we've created. Now I want to build on that and take it to the next level. So I'm guessing that you can do that, you know, with
Absolutely.
all and anything.
And that's that's why it's called Chat GPT, because it is a chat, like you say. It's a flowing conversation where, you know, I know usually when I come up with an idea for anything, it's never at the end when I've produced whatever I'm going to produce. It's never how I first envisaged.
Yeah.
It's a process, and this is what this is. You, as you said, Sharon, you build up. You build up the conversation and you work out. Oh yeah, actually, no, I'd like this changing, etc. So yeah, and one important thing I'll mention. Every time you start a new subject or a new topic, always start a new chat, because ChatGPT has the context of the conversation you're in. It understands what you're talking about within this particular conversation. But if I was to start adding other things in that aren't about social media and the mindset coaching limiting beliefs, then it could start getting confused, because it'd still be referring to some of the things in here, possibly.
Mm.
Um, so that's good to know. And also, I think so. Yeah, always start a new chat, get new context. And if I was to start a new chat, I can't refer back to this chat in that new chat, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I won't understand in the new chat what I've been talking about in a different chat.
Yeah. It's like a
So
different conversation with a different person on a different day, but it is the same talk.
that's a
Yeah.
great way of putting it, Sharon. Thank you.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And the other thing I'd just say is you can come back to this chat months later and continue where you left off. So you don't have to worry about that as well. So it's still got the context there.
So you don't have to go right back to scratch and start again. Oh, I
Absolutely
did a
not.
chat
Yeah,
on this a little while ago. Go and find it and build on it.
exactly. Yeah.
For someone who started using it for the first time, um, someone once said to me, and it always stuck with me, when you first start using Chat GPT, it's a bit like going on a date for the first time. You've got to get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously not exactly in the same context, but it does need to get to know you a little bit, doesn't it? And then the more that you use it, and the more that it gets to know your voice, the more specific and the more useful and the more relevant the information becomes. That's certainly been my experience.
Yeah, and there are some certain things you can do to, um, I guess, hurry that process along, for want of a better word. There's some things called custom instructions in ChatGPT, where you can tell it specifically. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I have to look what the questions are. But these are very powerful, and I've got them switched off right now. So, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? And how would you like ChatGPT to respond? So I usually say I want it in British English when I've got this switched on. I want it to address me as Mike. So usually, and I tell it I'm an AI trainer and also a transformational coach. So this is really useful, very powerful. You can give it a lot of information in here, and then it will use that for every chat you have, if you have it switched on, which I haven't at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And that really helps it to speak a little bit more in your voice. But as we say, it is something that we need to be sort of supporting it to, it is just the start. I think that's the most important thing that I've certainly learned. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing, Mike. It's very much a starting point. So don't just cut and paste it. Take it as a starting point, and then you might need to tweak it to make it a little bit more in your voice. Saloni's just posted the handout that you've very kindly put together for us today. Well, we've got about another sort of 7 minutes or so. What other particular areas would you like to share with us today that you think would be really helpful to those listening?
I guess just quickly show image generation. Now you can do this free in the Microsoft version, but I don't think you can use it for commercial use. So maybe not for, your coaching business as such. If ChatGPT use the paid for version, then there's something here called like DALI, which is their image generator. And you, as I said earlier, you can use it in any way you like. Then once it's created the image. There are other image generators as well. There's one called Midjourney, which is very powerful, but we'll just stick to this one for now. So I'm just saying that, again, this is very simple prompt, and again, you probably have to refine it as you go, do that conversational thing we were talking about earlier, Sharon, where you keep adding bits of elements and taking them away, etc. So I'm just saying, basically, create me a logo for a mindset coach. My business name is Spiral Coaching. Make the background bright yellow. Now, this is a very basic prompt. So we'll see what it does. So
this is
in a
in the
minute,
paid for version, Mike,
it is,
just for
yes.
clarity.
100%, yes. This is paid, yeah. Yeah. So it just gives you the little sort of
Yes,
progress going
creating the
around there.
image.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful.
And I don't know what it's going to produce. Like I said, I tested this yesterday. I got some things.
Exciting.
I thought they were okay, but you never know what's going to come. Okay, they're not bad actually. So now one thing to note is most image generators are really quite bad at text, but you can usually import it into Canva, and there's something I think called grab text in there, and it'll try and match the font, and you can usually just change it around there. So you can see it's actually got this one correct, but this one not so, because it's got the letters in the wrong order.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to note with any image generation. It's a little bit hit and miss with the writing, the text. So again, you can get a lot more complicated with these things and build on them and layer them up over time, sort of making it more what you want to see at the end. And I'd say for something like a social media post, for instance, and one thing to note here is this is probably the first time anyone on earth has seen these things. They are uniquely being created as we watch them. So
Yeah. And the
so I'll
great thing
just
again, from what you're saying, it's a starting point, Mike, isn't it? We're not
absolutely,
expecting
yeah,
it to
yeah.
come up with, the be all and end all where logos are concerned, but it gives us some sort of ideas. Maybe if we've used Pinterest, we've used, whatever other sort of ways of doing some searching. This is just another tool to help us to sort of maybe to create some ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And you may send this to a graphic designer or something and say,
Yeah.
I want it around this thing, but you couldn't envision it or explain it properly before. Whereas when you've got something in front of you, it's a lot easier to, firm up, I guess. So this is more for, like, say, a social media post. So create an image of a career woman who's frustrated in her work and longs for another career. So yeah, she looks pretty frustrated.
Indeed. I
So
certainly wouldn't want her workload there.
no. so again, you can, but in seconds, you've got possibly a usable image. It depends on what you want. And again, I'd say I'm using very simple prompts here. So, you'd probably be a little bit more, it'd be a little bit more complex to get something better. But I mean, I'd be happy to use that in a post if I was talking about someone being frustrated with work. It kind of gets the point over, I think.
Images are really powerful, aren't they? They really
Yeah.
are. What lots of people have mentioned in the chat about copyright. What's sort of the thing to be aware of, maybe where copyright is concerned? I think you alluded to it at the beginning of our discussion, actually.
Yeah. Well, like I say, with the ChatGPT paid version, in fact, rather than me make it up, because they do change these things from time to time. Where's is it on here? They keep moving. Oh, here it is. Keep moving things around in these interfaces. So yeah, if I go to help and frequently asked questions, it'll tell you on here. If you see it before me, please shout up.
Yeah, no, I can't see.
So there's about reporting harmful or illegal content.
Maybe it's just good to just to be able to double check it first. And
But yeah, I mean, what I'd say is, from what I've read everywhere, including in these help things, I just can't pinpoint it right now. You have the right to use any of the content generated, as in your initial prompt and any content generated from it. You have the right to use that. Now, don't get me wrong. If you say quote directly from a book or something and it does that, then you're basically quoting some text from a book. So that's a different matter. But if you're getting to create something for you, you've got free use of that in any type of way, commercially or anything. And the same with images. You have total free reign of using those in any way you like. You could sell them on a t-shirt, use them as your coaching logo, whatever you like. But like I say, with the free Bing one that does images, I don't think you've got commercial use of those. I think that's just for personal use.
Yeah. So always best to double check.
Yeah.
Exactly, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Mike, I can't believe that we have come to the end of our conversation. It's been absolutely fascinating. And obviously, we've just scratched the surface. What would be your sort of one maybe takeaway message for people that are listening in today?
Uh, I'd say experimentate. In regards to like any AI, I'd say experimentation. You can't break it; just play with it and ask it things and work out what works for you. I think it's the more experimenting you do, the more playing around with it. I think the more you'll get out of it, and the more you'll see its capabilities.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to ask you in a moment where people can find out more about you. But before we do, I would just say to everybody who is here today, thank you. But remember, as with all technology, it's a tool to assist. Yeah. If used correctly, it's great. But remember, AI can get it wrong sometimes. So double check your research. Remember, it's not a person who has experienced the ups and downs and nuances of life and coaching. It hasn't been on an ethics course. It hasn't been on the wonderful Pam Lidford's, sort of values and beliefs training, But joking aside, real life first hand experience can never really truly be replaced. So remember that it's a tool to support you. And please do write down, what your main takeaway is from today, because knowing is one thing, but we need to do, don't we, as well? Mike, where can people find out more about you? I know you've shared, a wonderful little handout which gets people started as a result of today, but where do you hang out online? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to be connected on Facebook. I am in the academy group, coaching academy group, and on LinkedIn as well. So I think one thing ChatGPT can do as well, it can create you a QR code for like your LinkedIn profile. So that's
Okay.
something useful you can do, I think. Oh,
Is there an end to its many talents? Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. This hour has absolutely flown by. I've really enjoyed it and learned lots myself as well. I hope you have as well. As I say, please do write down one thing that you're going to take away, research, learn, reflect on as a result of today's session. And from me, from Saloni, and from everyone here at the Coaching Academy, have a wonderful rest of your day. And I look forward to you joining me, if not before, but on the next coaching conversations on the 12th of March. Take care, everybody. See you again soon.